It's pre-release time, and that means we get to crack open brand new cards before they officially hit store shelves, build a deck from scratch, and battle in a fun, casual format where all players are on a level playing field. Today we're diving into Pokemon's newest set, Journey Together, which brings back a fan-favorite mechanic featuring iconic trainers teaming up with their signature Pokemon from the games. Now, whether you're a seasoned player or completely new to the pre-release format, this guide will cover how to find pre-release events that are near you, what you should bring to the event, the 4 exclusive promo cards that are available from this set, tips to building a winning deck, as well as the unique rules and strategies of the pre-release format, and as an added bonus, I'll even let you know how you can get yourself some extra packs from this new set. To give you a peek at some of these cards too, I'll even be opening a Journey Together build and battle kit, which is right here in the video, so make sure to stick around to the end to see what we pulled. But now it's time for us to take this journey together into the pre-release format. Now, first things first, how do you actually find a pre-release event? The easiest way is to use Pokemon's official event locator. Just head to Pokemon's website, enter your city or postcode, and it'll show you all of the events that are happening near you. I'll drop a link in the description, but just in case I forget, just try pinging me in the comments and I'll get it sorted as quickly as I can. You can also check Facebook groups, as most local card shops have accounts and will post their event details there, or you can just ask your local card shop in person or over the phone. Even if they aren't hosting an event, they might have other locations that are, or know of somebody who is. It's also worth mentioning some stores will even allow for pre-registration, especially if they're expecting a large turnout to the event. If your store offers it, I'd highly recommend signing up early to guarantee yourself a spot. In most cases though, you're typically fine to kind of just show up on the day and get a spot without any issue. When you arrive though, make sure to head to the front desk, let them know you're there for the pre-release, and they'll help get you sorted. Now, while pre-release events are pretty casual, there are a few things you should bring with you to improve your experience and help you actually play the game. The first is going to be sleeves for your cards. You're going to be shuffling cards a lot, so protecting them is pretty important. I personally recommend Dragon Shield sleeves. They're super durable, come in packs of 100, and are available in a number of really interesting colors. With 100 sleeves in there too, there's enough to sleeve up a pre-release deck as well as a standard legal 60 card deck. The other bonus of them is they even come in this handy dandy box that's perfect to keep your deck in, so that you can kind of bounce around between tables without any issues. Also, once you sleeve up your pre-release deck, you've got that other 60 kind of waiting with you, and then if you get any hits that you aren't planning on running in your deck, you can sleeve them up to keep them safe. You'll also need dice, as these are used as damage counters after your Pokemon take a hit and to help determine coin flips. Most people play with the logic that odds is tails and evens is heads. This typically comes up to determine who's going to go first in a match, if certain status conditions are going to stick, and for some attack effects. Try avoiding using actual coins, as they tend to fall on the floor or can get into other people's games and cause some delays. A playmat is also a great idea to bring with you. While not necessarily required, these help to keep your cards organized and prevents them from getting dirty on the tables. If you're after a custom playmat too, you can use the link below to visit QuokkaMousepads.com. They make high quality custom playmats with free shipping available to most countries. Make sure to use code TripleBtcg to get 10% off your order as well. You may also want a water bottle and some snacks, like just some granola bars or something to help kind of tide you over. Some stores allow food and some don't, so always check in with the staff before you open anything up at the tables. You'll also need a Play Pokemon ID to participate in the events. If you don't have one, it's free to make one over on Pokemon's website, and you can also ask at the store for an ID if you forget to make one ahead of time, or if you forget yours, just log on to the Pokemon website and reset your password and that mumbo jumbo. Something to keep in mind though, if you want a simple way to get everything you do need to play, well, you can just grab yourself what's called an Elite Trainer Box, or ETB. These come with sleeves, dice, and even status condition markers for burn and poison, plus some booster packs to help expand your collection. Just be mindful you can't use those packs in the event. You can only use what you're actually pulling out of your kit. Also, before we get into the kits and the deck building process, we should probably cover the rules for pre-release, as they are a little bit different from the standard format. There's no 4-copy rule for your deck, so if you pull 5 copies of a card with the same name, like a Pokemon or a trainer, or even a special energy, I'm not sure how you're pulling 5 of those, but yeah, maybe you do, you can technically use every single one of them. Decks are only 40 cards in this format as well, so you're only going to play matches using 4 prizes, as opposed to in standard where it's 60 card decks and 6 prizes. So think of it like this: for every 10 cards that's in your deck, there's a prize card in the game. You can also only use cards from your kit. There's no outside cards allowed, so leave your competitive decks at home, or if you bring them with them, keep them in your bag to avoid confusion. There's also bonus packs for participation, so make sure to stick around till the end of the event, as most stores will give one extra pack for every game you play, or potentially they might do it for every game you win. Some stores do it a bit differently though and have it scaling with how you place in the tournament. It's kind of done at a store-by-store level, so ask with staff if you're curious how it goes. From my experience though, it's usually just every round you play, you're going to get a bonus pack. It's to encourage people to actually play the game and help grow the community. Now that you're set up with everything you need to attend the event and know the rules to play, what actually happens at these pre-release events? Well, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to receive one of these build and battle kits, which contains 4 booster packs from the set, as well as a 40 card pre-constructed deck right in the box that's ready to play like immediately. You crack this open, there's a deck that's in there and you can start playing if you want. You're going to open the kit and the booster packs, then build a 40 card deck using those cards that are contained within here though. You have the option to use the deck as it is, as I just mentioned, or you can tweak it with the pulls from your packs, or even try and build something entirely new using cards you've just got from the packs if you're feeling a little ambitious. Keep in mind, no outside cards are allowed though, and trading typically isn't allowed at these events. You're just going to be making a deck with the cards that you've actually pulled that day. You're typically going to be allowed 30 minutes to build your deck after cracking into the kit, and then the event kicks off. It's typically 3 or 4 rounds of Swiss depending on attendance, but that'll be talked about at the event by the staff running it. Also, if you want some bonus packs, as I mentioned earlier, make sure you hang around to the end of the event. So even if you have a rough game or two, just power through, you never know. You might find someone else that's having a bit of a rough day, and then you just kind of have a casual match to finish out the afternoon and yeah, make a new friend out of it. Some stores do this differently though, so as I said, check in with staff to see how they do the additional packs. Now, I mentioned each kit includes one of 4 special pre-release promo cards. Here's the ones that we're going to be getting in Journey together. There's Iono's Kilowattrel, En's Darmanitan, Lily's Ribombee, and Hop's Snorlax. Hop's Snorlax is going to focus on boosting the damage output of Hop's Pokemon as it increases their attack damage by 30. This lets you hit harder and pressure opponents quickly. It comes paired with Hop's Corviknight, which is a solid attacker that can set up pretty fast. Both Corviknight Stage 1 and Stage 2 evolutions have attacks that cost just 1 energy, making it easy to start applying pressure early in the game, and with the added damage that Snorlax is doing, you can be putting some pretty big hits as early as turn 2 of the game. Corviknight's first attack does 50 damage to the active and then 50 damage to one of their bench Pokemon, which can be devastating to potentially take out 2 Pokemon at once, or setting up damage for follow-up KOs after they promote a new Pokemon in the active. If you've like half hit something and then they bring it up, it's like, well, I'm gonna half hit that, finish it off, and set up another thing. It's a little bit silly. Its second attack though is going to hit for 150 damage, so it can be dealing with some bigger targets and will be reducing the incoming damage it takes by 60, effectively making Corviknight a 230 HP tank. And it's only giving up 1 prize if your opponent manages to knock it out, so they're probably going to be struggling to deal with that. You're also going to get Hop's Choice Belt in this kit, boosting up Corviknight's damage by another 30 and reducing its attack cost by a colorless energy. This can be used on any of Hop's Pokemon, but as the Corviknight's included in the kit, that's the one I'm going to be mentioning here. This can let you attack even faster and put more pressure onto them. If you pull this kit, keep an eye out for more copies of Hop's Choice Band and Pokemon that Hop has, like his Cramorant, which can do 120 damage for just 1 energy, but only if your opponent has 3 or 4 prize cards remaining. It does just need a colorless energy, so with the Choice Band on there, it can be attacking for free and doing 150 or 180 if Snorlax is in play. And since pre-release is a 4 prize format, Cramorant can quickly come out into play and sweep opponents effortlessly, as, well, they're going to be starting on 4 prizes, so if you go second, you can be hitting for 120 as early as the second turn of the game, and you can easily include this in any deck, not just Hop's kit, since it doesn't necessarily need Hop's stuff in play. It can be doing 120 for 1 energy in any deck. Other key additions for this kit, if you happen to pull them, would be Postwick Stadium. It's a stadium that's going to boost up Hop's Pokemon's damage by, well, another 30, so that, the Snorlax and the Choice Band, you're adding 90 damage onto your guys. Hop's Bag's also very helpful to help you search out 2 of Hop's basic Pokemon, and then you can put them into play. Zacian EX, it's another one of Hop's Pokemon, and if you pull this one, it makes an amazing attacker in basically any kit, but in the Hop's one especially, since you can be increasing that damage output. It's going to be doing 30 damage to the active and 30 damage to something on the bench, so kind of like Corviknight, but as a basic Pokemon instead. The second attack on here doing some very devastating damage, but needing 3 steel energy and a colorless to do it. Now, Iono's Kilowattrel, this kit's all about draw power. Kilowattrel's ability lets you discard a lightning energy that's attached to it in order to draw to a 6-card hand, which is insanely strong in pre-release, where draw support is often pretty limited. comes paired with Noivern, which has the ability Tuning Echo, allowing it to attack for free as long as your hand size matches the opponent's. This pairs perfectly with Kilowattrel since you can easily draw into a larger hand to match the opponent, or play down a few cards into a smaller hand size if needed to get free attacks and not worrying about using the attachments for turn onto Kilowattrel to use the ability, since you don't even need energy on Noivern to attack. Noivern's attack is going to do 110 damage and confuses the opponent, forcing them to either decide if they can switch out, which potentially they lose energy doing it, maybe they evolve through it, but if you're doing 110 into a pre-evolution, they've probably got knocked out, or they can risk hitting themselves for 30 damage if they fail the coin flip for confusion. The Kilowattrel kit also includes the Stadium Lavencia, letting you recover 2 lightning energy from your discard pile once per turn and put them immediately back into your hand. This helps you provide energy to use Kilowattrel's ability turn after turn. It also gives you a way to charge up attackers and to regrow your hand size to match the opponents if they have, let's say, more than a 6-card hand, right? You get to 6 cards with Kilowattrel and then it's like, oh, they're at 8? Cool, grab 2 lightning energy, and yeah, you're fine. The kit also includes Experience Share, letting you move an energy from your active Pokemon when it gets knocked out onto something on the bench. So I recommend putting this on Kilowattrel. So active gets knocked out, lightning goes to Kilowattrel, you can trigger its ability, or you're setting it up as a backup attacker. Now, some tips for using this kit. In the mirror match, I'd recommend leaning into Kilowattrel as your main attacker and not as much into Noivern, since it hits both itself and Noivern for weakness, doing 70, but that gets boosted up to 140 for an easy one-shot, making KOs very easy and letting you grow your hand size so the opponent can't be using their Noivern. They're trying to match your hand size, you just get to 6 with Kilowattrel, get 2 lightning energy from the bin with Lavencia, and then turn after turn, you're taking a KO, you get 1 more prize, you're drawing a card per turn, you're getting another card in your hand, and they just can't use Noivern. They're going to struggle to charge up that Kilowattrel to be able to attack, and you can just snowball the game. Also, be mindful when you're using Kilowattrel's ability, sometimes it's better just to keep the energy on it for attacking instead of always discarding it for extra draw power, so you aren't always stuck in situations where you don't have an attacker after your Noivern gets knocked out. Some cards to watch out for if you pull this kit are extra copies of Kilowattrel and Noivern, just to boost up your consistency into getting the evolutions into play. Having extra copies of the basic means you're more likely to start them, and having extra copies of the evolution means you're more likely to, well, draw into them and evolve. Extra copies of the Lavencia Stadium also ensure that you can find your energy from the discard pile and just be recovering it repeatedly, which is always clutch. And if you happen to be lucky enough to pull Bellibolt EX, your deck's gonna go insane. Like it's just kicking things into overdrive, as you can quickly flood the board with lightning energy, putting as many lightning energy from your hand onto your Iono Pokemon in play as you'd like. Meaning Kilowattrel's never gonna be struggling to have energy on it to be able to use the ability or get an attack off. Bellibolt's also a solid attacker, having pretty hefty HP, so it can tank some hits and dish out some serious damage. Plus the 2 retreat cost on there means even though it can't use its attack turn after turn, you can just be attacking, hard retreat it, Lavencia gets those 2 energy back into your hand, you attach it onto a Kilowattrel, you attack with that, or you go into a Noivern for a bit, and you're fine. So yeah, it's a pretty silly combo if you can pull it off. Now, End Damanitan, on the other hand, is a very aggressive kit when compared to the other 2, as it boasts 2 powerful attacks. One is scaling up damage based on energy in your opponent's discard pile, making it a strong attack to use in the late game. If they've got 3 or more energy in the discard, you're doing 90, so you can take out pre-evolutions with ease, and later in the game, if they've got 5 or more, you're doing 150 up. So like, you can be getting one-shots into EXs if they're not really minding what they're putting in the discard pile. The second attack on here is going to do 90 damage to the active as well as 90 damage to a bench Pokemon, allowing you to potentially take 2 KOs at once and break your opponent's board state. There's no bench protection in this format, so if you're getting this attack off, you're hitting 2 things. However, you do have to discard all energy attached to it after using the attack, so this kit does include a few ways that Damanitan can get charged up quickly and even recharge itself. End's Power Up is the item card that's going to allow you to attach an energy from your discard pile to one of your benched End Pokemon in play, helping you get set up quickly and start taking attacks. And Boomerang Energy is also included in the kit, which will automatically reattach itself to a Pokemon as long as it was discarded when you used an attack. So you're using the second attack, you're discarding 3 energy, Boomerang Energy's on there, it goes back on, you're just dishing 2 fire energy. Then the following turn, you just need to manually attach 1 more energy and you can use the first attack backdraft to keep pressure on your opponent. The kit also includes Surfer to let you switch out your active Pokemon to the bench, then draw until you have 5 cards in hand, so you can be setting up Darmanitan on the bench with End's power-up, then easily pivoting into it when it's ready to go. Key tips for this kit would be using Boomerang energy wisely. Try to only attach it to Darmanitan since it's going to be discarding it for the attack. If you're using it on other Pokemon that just need a colorless energy, you're usually better just using like fire energy or some other energy to pay for that, since the Boomerang energy is only coming back when it's discarded with the attack, not if it's knocked out, so it could go to waste on something else. You're also going to be wanting to target low HP pre-evolution Pokemon with the spread attack on Darmanitan to stop your opponent from getting into the game or softening up bench Pokemon they're trying to charge up, and then, yeah, when they put that into the active to try and attack you, it's like, oh, Backdraft can deal with that, that's fine. If you do pull this kit though, keep an eye out for extra copies of End's power-up to help you get Darmanitan online quickly, and if you manage to be lucky enough and get Zoroark EX, makes a great addition for the deck, as it's going to provide you draw power. You can discard a card and draw into 2 new ones, so it's a great way to get energy into the discard pile, and it's also one of End's Pokemon, so you can be using End's power-up to charge this up. The attack on here too lets you copy the attacks of any of End's bench Pokemon, so yeah, you can just be using Darmanitan's attacks with this. It's got more HP, it's pretty tanky compared to Darmanitan, so yeah, solid option. Does use dark energy instead of fire though, so your energy counts may get a little bit funky. And finally, there's Lily's Ribombee. This kit focuses on disrupting your opponent while setting up a hit-and-run strategy. Ribombee's ability lets you look at your opponent's hand and then forces them to bench any basic Pokemon you find there, potentially clogging up their board with cards that they don't actually want in play, and then they no longer have bench space to get the Pokemon they did want out. So yeah, interesting concept. It also comes with Lily's Pearl, which makes Lily's Pokemon give up 1 less prize. Ribombee being a single prize Pokemon means now it's a 0 prize Pokemon, and makes it a great option to have in the active while you're trying to get set up, as your opponent can take a knockout but get nothing from it, or to pivot into. It's going to be paired with Excelgor, which does 70 damage while also poisoning and confusing the opponent, so effectively 80 damage, and then if they don't move, comes back, takes 90 damage, or another 10 damage, putting it to 90, plus they're confused, so they have to hard retreat, losing that energy, evolve through it, or potentially hit themselves in the face, meaning they're not taking any prizes. And even if they do manage to land an attack, the second bit of Excelgor's attack is that it's going to switch itself to the bench, allowing you to pivot into that Ribombee, who ideally isn't giving up any prizes. So if they happen to hit heads and get through the confusion, they knock out Ribombee, they get no prizes, you go back into Excelgor, you rinse, you repeat. Ribombee also has free retreat though, so if they do miss the attack to actually take that KO, you can just pivot back into Excelgor and kind of keep going. The kit also comes with Luminous Energy, allowing you to set up attackers like Excelgor while running just limited counts of the energy they need. He needs a grass and a colorless energy, so you could just run the 2 Luminous Energy that are in the kit, and then maybe 2 basic grass, and then focus on another secondary attacker that needs something else. Like you could slot this in with Corviknight, who wants some steel, or you could slot this in with Darmanitan, or something else. Meaning you can focus on different Pokemon while still having it in there as a secondary attacker. Even with lower counts of the energy, it's not really an issue. Some tips for this kit would be using Ribombee to disrupt your opponent's board and forcing them into awkward positions, and ensuring you can switch into Ribombee after you actually land the attack with Excelgor, and stalling them while they try and deal with that status condition or lack of prizes they're not taking. Keep an eye out for extra copies of Lily's Pokemon so you have more targets for Lily's Pearl, and extra pearls is always great too, just capitalizing on the 0 prize effect, because if you just have like 4 things in play that all have Lily's Pearls, yeah, your opponent's not taking any prizes. You're doing small bits of damage, but they're not getting ahead in the prize race. So even if it's taking you 2 or 3 hits, it's fine. You're still getting ahead in the long run. There's also Lily's Clefairy EX, which is a perfect addition for this kit, as it's going to scale up damage based on all Pokemon in play, yours and the opponent's. Meaning Ribombee is a great way to help you increase your opponent's board size to boost up the damage you're going to be doing with Clefairy. It is a 2 prize Pokemon, which is a little bit risky, but with a Lily Pearl on here, it goes down to a single prize Pokemon that can potentially be doing 220 damage with full benches. Now, whichever promo you happen to get, you'll likely want to build around it or the secondary line that's included to take advantage of the Pokemon and the strengths and strategies included in it. I don't remember if I already mentioned this, but yeah, in the promo, or The promo is going to determine the first group of Pokemon that you get, which are the ones we just talked about, and then you're also going to get a second group of Pokemon that's based off one of the other 4 promo cards, just excluding that promo. So you're kind of getting like 2 groups of cards in each kit. If you pull more cards of one of the trainers that's in your kit, you may want to fully just hone in on that. So like if you get the Hop kit and then you happen to get a bunch of Hops cards in your packs, and your secondary line was Damanitan, but it's like, well, I don't really want that because it needs a lot of energy and these need less energy. Just go all in on that. Or maybe try and find a happy balance between the 2 lines if you're at kind of like a midway point, giving you more adaptable ways to play the game. Now, depending on what you pulled though, there are a few different ways you can decide to build your deck. You can just stick with the pre-constructed deck from the kit. As I mentioned, it's a 40 card deck already included in there. You can just sleeve that up and start playing the game if you want. Honestly, it's not a bad call. That's basically what I did at the pre-release event I went to today. The pulls I got were not great. Like, they weren't bad, but they didn't really align with my kit, so I pretty much just stuck to the basics. I think I got 1 extra copy of a Noivern and 1 extra copy of a, not Kilowattrel, it's pre-evolution Wattrel, I think it was. So I like slotted those in just to help with consistency. And yeah, it was fine. Or you could modify the deck by adding stronger Pokemon from your packs like EXs, or even just extra copies of Pokemon that are already in your kit. Keep in mind though, the deck does always need to be 40 cards. So if you're putting something in, you do need to take something out. There is also the option to completely rebuild around a powerful pull like an EX Pokemon. Maybe you just want to run Zacian EX, like you pulled it and you're like, hey, he seems pretty good. I've got a couple copies of Choice Band, got a couple copies of Postwick, some draw supporters. Yep, just chuck all those in there and some energy. I'm just gonna run like these trainer cards, 25 energy and the Zacian. This is gonna ensure that you're always starting that card, and then you're not gonna have any issues getting into energy, and you're just constantly pressuring your opponent. They're gonna struggle to knock that out. You're gonna be putting a lot of pressure on them, and they're gonna have a difficult time actually evolving up. So yeah, it's not a bad call. I typically recommend following this skeleton list to structure your deck around though. Having about 10 to 15 Pokemon in your deck, 10 to 12 trainer cards, prioritizing ones that offer you draw power and Pokemon search, or even just general search like item cards and tool cards can be great, and anywhere between 10 and 16 energy depending on how energy hungry the deck is. So just adjust kind of based on your deck's needs. If you have Kilowattrel, you're going to want a bunch of lightning energy in your deck to make sure you're able to use that ability. Same with Damanitan, you're going to want a lot of energy to make sure you can get attaching onto it and afford to discard them to be able to use End's power up. While something like Excelgor or Corviknight, who only really need 1 or 2 energy to get going, can lean a little bit more on the thin side for those counts. To help with doing any of those methods though, you're probably going to be wanting to sort your cards while you're opening your packs, and I'd recommend doing it in this way. Separate your pulls into the energy types on the cards, or even just into energy types that are related to your kit. So if you got a kit that mostly has fire Pokemon and grass Pokemon, cool, sort those off to the side. Everything else can go wherever, like your dark Pokemon, your fighting Pokemon, your water Pokemon, they can be all stacked up because you don't really care about them too much. Also keep an eye out for colorless Pokemon or Pokemon that have colorless attack costs, as these can easily be splashed into any deck. It's got a colorless attack cost, you can be using a fire energy to pay that. So like, yeah, maybe there's a grass Pokemon that just needs 1 colorless energy to do some silly stuff. Could even be slotted into your Darmanitan deck, so a little bit cheeky. I'd also recommend watching for Pokemon with low cost attacks that can put opponents to sleep, paralyze them, or even prevent damage from attacks with a coin flip, as these can be great in the early game to buy you a little bit of time while you're getting set up and putting a little bit of chip damage into your opponents to help with KOs later in the game. Great examples of these are Maractus, whose ability Bursting Needles makes it do 60 damage to the opponent if they hit you, so you don't even need to get an attack off and you're already hurting them. And for 1 colorless energy, you can do 20 damage to their active Pokemon while also making it so it can't retreat. Magearna, whose attack Spike Draw does 20 damage and will let you draw 2 cards, can really help grow your hand size in the early game to boost up your consistency while putting a little bit of chip damage, and the ability on there makes it so that while it's in the active, if you attach an energy to one of your Pokemon in play, you get to heal 90 damage off of them. So pairing this with a deck like Bellibolt EX, who, well, you can just flood a bunch of energy onto the board, right? It tanks a hit, you switch into Magearna, you use Lavencia, you get 2 lightning energy back, you attach those 2 lightning energies onto Bellibolt, you heal it for 180. Yeah, not a bad shout. Togedemaru is also a good choice, as it can do 40 damage for 2 energy, 1 lightning and 1 colorless. Then you're going to flip a coin and potentially just take no damage from your opponent on their next turn. Shelmet also has an attack that does this, but it's doing 20 damage instead and needing a grass and a colorless. And even Fungus could be helpful in this format, as it's going to do 10 damage for just 1 grass energy and puts the opponent to sleep. This means they may not be able to attack or retreat on their following turn and gives you a turn to get set up. Another great card to watch out for is Dewbool. When you evolve into it, you're going to get to gust up one of your opponent's bench Pokemon into the active, which means you can kind of target down key pieces of them, or just gust something up with a high retreat cost that's not able to attack and they're going to struggle to set up. Like Darmanitan, it's got 3 energy in its retreat cost. If they haven't used power up on it and they haven't got any energy attached to it, just gusting that up and be like, well, you're going to be taking 2 or 3 turns before this is relevant. It can buy you some time. It's also a great way that if your opponent's like taking a hit and then they're trying to move something to the bench to keep it alive and not give up prizes, like that Belly Bolt we've talked about a few times, he's got, no, bring that back into the active, I'm taking 2 prizes off of this. As it is a stage 1 card though, you do need the Wooloo in your deck as well, so make sure that you pull both of these from your packs or you aren't going to be able to play either one of them successfully. Other cards you may want to include if you're lucky enough to pull them are EX Pokemon. The main ones I'd recommend keeping an eye out for are Clefairy EX, who we've already talked about. It's got a pretty cheap attack that can scale up damage and do some pretty solid hits, and even Tapu Koko EX, having a similar attack to Clefairy, but just scaling up damage based on your bench size. The added benefit of the Tapu Koko though is it does have free retreat, so it's a great one to just start out the game and you can bounce it to the bench, especially knowing there's not a lot of gust in this format outside of the Dewbool. So it's like, hey, Tapu Koko can do a bit of damage, it eats a hit, you move it to the bench, you attack with some other things, later in the game you go back into Tapu Koko and you just close out the match. So yeah, not a bad shout. Zacian EX is also a great option. We have talked about this before. It's great in any deck as the first attack does just cost colorless energy, so you can do a bit of chip damage, do a bit of bench damage. Not a bad shout, can easily be slotted into anything. And Zoroark for its incredible trade ability, providing draw support to any deck. Have mentioned, Gust is very limited in this format, so you can just have this 2 prize Pokemon sat on your bench, just discarding stuff, drawing you cards, and not really risking it getting bossed up for an easy 2 prize KO. It's kind of just like, no, I'm safe. I don't see any Wooloos, we're good. There's also Volcanion EX, who can burn the opponent's active when it's also in the active to start putting damage counters out as early as the first turn of the game. So you can't attack on the first turn, but you can go, I'm gonna trigger this, you're taking 20 between turns, and start pressuring them. The retreat cost on here is a little bit awkward though, and there's not a lot of switch in the format, so it's a bit riskier to use unless you are running fire energy in your deck so that you can actually attack with it. To kind of charge this up, or just any other attacker in the format though, there is Blaziken EX. It's a stage 2, so you do need to get the Torchic and the Combuskin, or maybe you're lucky enough to get a rare candy in your kit. I did hear that there's a couple of those floating around today, so interesting one. But the ability on here does let you accelerate an energy of any type. Has to be a basic one though, from your discard pile to any of your Pokemon in play. So doesn't matter on the type of Pokemon you're trying to run, this is a way that you can get energy acceleration to consistently get attackers out and going quickly. Belly Bolt we talked about already. If you get the Iono kit and happen to pull this, you're set. Even if you don't get the Iono kit though, as long as you happen to get a Lavencia in your packs, it's not a bad card to go into since you can charge it up, you can hard retreat it, you get that energy back, you accelerate it out, pivot back into it the next turn, and you're in a pretty good spot. Then for slightly more Hail Mary plays with some EX Pokemon, there is Salamence EX, also a stage 2, so similar to Blaziken, you need to get that whole evolution line or happen to have a rare candy. It's a little bit tougher to get all that, but the attack on here is going to do 50 damage to all of your opponent's Pokemon in play, meaning you could be going for some board wipes. Got 320 HP, so it's a pretty bulky guy. Your opponent's going to struggle and knock this out before you're able to just take out 4 things with the attack. So yeah, if any of you guys pull that, let me know in the comments below, because like that's kind of cracked. I want to hear that how that goes. There's also even an Amoonguss EX who's got a fairly cheap attack, needing just a grass and a colorless energy to get an attack off. You do have to flip a coin. You're doing 100 damage, but if you land the coin flip, 80 more damage. So it's not too bad. 260 HP makes it pretty bulky, so unless you're up against something like Darmanitan who can hit you for weakness, you're going to be able to tank hits and be one-shotting your opponent's Pokemon like 50% of the time. Even if you're just doing 100, you're taking out pre-evolution, so like you're fine. Now just keep in mind, there are a lot of attacks that confuse Pokemon in this format, so going all in on just one EX Pokemon may be a little bit risky without a way to pivot them from the active and remove that effect off them, since you run the risk of potentially giving up 2 prizes easily or trying to attack and then hitting yourself and then your opponent hits you and yeah, they take 2 prizes. pretty easily. So yeah, it's risky. Now the other cards you're going to be wanting to sort out while you're going through your packs is your trainer cards. You're going to put these off to the side, being your supporters, your items, your tools, and your stadiums, even special energy if you happen to pull them. You'll typically want to include any and all supporter cards, especially if they have the words draw or search on them, since they'll enable you to actually play the game and get going very consistently. And any trainer cards that focus on the Pokemon trainer that you happen to get from your kit, so anything that says Hop or does extra things for a Hop, or Iono or N, if you got the kit that also says those words, yeah, use those. Like extra cards for your Hop that boost up his damage output, you want to run those. But for the trainer cards, aside from the trainer-specific trainer cards that you want to be watching for from this set, are Brock Scouting, as it's going to provide additional Pokemon search, getting you 2 basic Pokemon from your deck or 1 evolution Pokemon. Solid way to get into your key pieces. Iris's Fighting Spirit is also hidden here, giving you solid draw power. You discard 1 card, but then you draw into a 6-card hand, so kind of like Kilowattrel, but as a supporter. So yeah, not a bad shout. Cards like Super Potion to help heal up your Pokemon, or even Spike Energy to give your Pokemon a little bit of recoil damage when your opponent hits you, may also be worth considering to put into your deck if you have space for them. Now that's pretty much it for advice that I have for you guys going into this event. If you're heading over to a pre-release this week or this upcoming weekend, let me know which promo card you're hoping to pull, and if you have any other questions that weren't answered in this video, please never hesitate to ask. I do my best to get back to every single comment you guys leave. Also, if you just enjoyed the video and want to let me know, comments are always appreciated and they genuinely make my day and help grow the channel more than you might realize. Now, we're going to crack into a pre-release kit in just a moment, but if you've stuck around, where is it? But if you've stuck around this far into the video, hitting that like button is always a great way to let me know, and if you haven't already, make sure to boot that subscribe button so that we can keep hanging out. But now let's get into this kit. Apologies guys, didn't mean to record this all in one go, but I've actually got a prior commitment I gotta get to, so I might be doing this in 2 takes. If you notice my shirt change, well that's why, and I'll see you in a moment. Good morning, Goombas. Yeah, apologies about that. Did have to cut the video into 2 pieces and gonna be editing up this, well, this morning. It's Sunday morning over in Australia, so I'm gonna do my best to get this out for you guys so you can have it to be going to pre-releases for Saturday evening or Sunday afternoon. We're going to be kicking into a pre-release kit for Journey Together, which is pretty exciting. Yeah, so in this, it's going to have, as we said, one of those 40 card pre-constructed decks and then 4 booster packs from the set. So hopefully we had some solid hits and an interesting promo. The pre-release event I attended, well, not yesterday. I got the Kilowattrel kit with the secondary one being the Ribombee group. So hoping to get maybe the Damanitan and the Hop Snorlax included in here, and we'll see how we go. To be getting into this though, I'm going to be using a knife because, yeah, I've got short fingernails. They're a bit of a pain to get into. And I'm going to be trying something a little bit different in terms of actually opening the packs. So if you liked the way that this video is recorded, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll kind of keep exploring, improving my skill set in this area. But now I'm kind of just rambling. Let's get into these packs. So here we do have the Journey Together Build and Battle box. There is a little bit of tough plastic. As I said, I'm gonna just cut into this. If you're at a pre-release, you can use a set of keys, you can use your fingernails. I tend to struggle with them, so I'm just not gonna bother, and did happen to have a paring knife at home that made it a little bit easier. In here though, it looks like we've got the ends Zoroark on the box there. There is that outer sleeve on it, just kind of keeping everything nice and in a good condition while it's being shipped. And for our promo card, we did get the Ribombee. Right. If you guys pull this one at pre-release, it's not a bad card. It's just, of the 4 promos, probably the toughest to realistically play. There is obviously a concept within the deck, and that you're kind of just doing that pivot attack. So in this kit, we're going to be seeing a Ribombee. You're going to be getting those trainer tips. If you've made it this far into the video, though, I feel like you've already got some pretty solid trainer tips, but might be a little biased in that one. We're getting an Ultra Ball, so adding solid consistency to help us search out our Pokemon, get some energy in the discard pile potentially too, if we happen to hand the Ends Darmanitan or Lavencia. Some Grass Energy, Rookidee. Okay, so looking like the secondary group in this kit is going to be the Hops Pokemon. 2 to fly, so we can evolve that Ribombee up. Steel Energy, the Luminous Energy being paired with the Ribombee for the Excelgor to help us pay for that attack cost, while being able to use some different energy types in the deck, so we're not fully focused in on the grass. Iris's Fighting Spirit, some solid draw power, more grass energy. Earthen Vessel, solid to get us into our energy when we need them. More grass. Corviknight, Brock Scouting, some more solid Pokemon search. So you're going to get to look through your deck and grab 2 basic Pokemon or 1 evolution Pokemon. So kind of like a Buddy Poffin and an evolution instance mixed into 1 card. Is your supporter of return, but in pre-release you don't really mind that because you just want to get into the game and this helps you do that. Some Steel Energy, as we do have that Corviknight line. Buddy Poffin getting 2 basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less, popping them right onto our bench. Great to get into the game. Some Shelmets, which Buddy Poffin can target. More grass energy, that Corviknight we talked about. So we're seeing the attack shoot through. It's going to do 50 damage to the active, then 50 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So solid to set up 2 KOs, potentially just softening up 2 things at a time, right? If they've got an active Pokemon with like, let's say 50 or more than 50 HP, like 70 HP like this, we get to hit it, and then we're hitting 1 on the bench. So over 2 turns, we're taking out 2 KOs, and ideally they're not getting enough energy on something to get an attack off that's relevant. So yeah, not too bad. The Excelgor being in here with Poisonous Ploy, doing 70 base damage, confuses and poisons the opponent though, so effectively doing 80 damage to them because they take 10 between turns, and if they don't remove that status condition by either hard retreating, evolving through it, or just getting KO'd, they're going to take 10 when it comes back to us. They do have to flip a coin too to see if they can even get an attack off. A Jet Energy in the list, so when you attach this, it counts as a colorless energy and moves the Pokemon this is attached to into the active spot. So if it's on the bench, it effectively works as a way to charge up energy and also switch them. Youngster, shuffling your hand, then drawing 5 cards. More Steel Energy, another Excelgor, Nemona, just a great draw supporter, getting you into 3 more cards. More Rookidis to make sure we have the pre-evolution. Lily's Pearl, making it so those Lily Pokemon give up 1 less prize card, and when they're single prize Pokemon, they give up no prize cards. So yeah, not too shabby. Arvin, searching your deck for an item and a tool card, great to grabbing that Lily's Pearl or potentially that Buddy Poffin to get our board online. More energy, more Rookidis, a second Corviknight, Evolution TM, so another tool card that Arvin can target. It lets you pick 2 of your bench Pokemon that are in play and go, I'm going to evolve these. You search through your deck, you grab the evolution, you get them online. So that Rookidee, it's a basic Pokemon. The Corviknight is stage 2, so there is 1 Pokemon between these that you need to get online before you can actually evolve up. So being able to go, let's say, a Beautifly in the active with Evolution TM, you target 2 Rookidees, you evolve them up into Corvisquire, and then on the following turn, you can evolve them again into Corviknight. So it's a great way to kind of just accelerate that evolution process. Some more Luminous Energy, Steel Energy, another Shelmet, that Hop's Choice Band we talked about, so reducing the attack cost of our Hop Pokemon by 1 colorless energy, so Corviknight could be using Shoot Through for 0 energy actually, and it would be doing 80 damage to the active, potentially knocking out a pre-evolution Pokemon, and then still do 50 damage to a bench guy. Means it can also use Steel Wing for just 2 Steel Energy instead of 3. Because it has the colorless energy in the attack cost, not that it costs 3 Steel Energy normally. We're getting another Corvisquire, Surfer, so you're going to get to switch in one of your Pokemon to the active, then draw until you have 5 cards in hand. It's a great card to be able to use, and adding Switch in this format is pretty big. Got a Grass Energy and another Grass Energy. So honestly, not mad at that kit. I think if we did run this at a pre-release event, we'd kind of just hone in on the Hops line, to be honest. Like the Cutiefly, Excelgor, they're interesting, but like the Corviknights, it's a stage 2 Pokemon, so it takes up quite a bit of deck space just having all the evolutions in there. So it's usually a little bit easier to just kind of hone in on the stage 2s, but we will see what we pull from our packs. If we get some more Lily's Pokemon that could be having Lily's Pearl attached to them and giving up no prizes, yeah, maybe we do include that just to buy us a bit of time to get into the game, and an extra copy of Lily's Pearl would be cool. So in the pre-release kits though, you're going to get 4 packs, and they do a pretty good job at seeding them so you get 1 of every pack artwork. So we're getting Lily with her Clefairy, Iona with a Belly Bolt, and with a Zoroark, and Hop with his Zacian. As we kind of got the Hop cards, and I'm planning to build this deck around Hop, I think we open this pack first. Let's see how we go. Also, you can tell I open packs very regularly. All right, get that code card out of there. Start us off, we are getting a Alolan Geodude. Aldino, Lily's Comfy, so it is another target we could be putting Lily's Pearl on. Definitely considering putting this in the deck.
It's got the attack Fade Out, does 30 damage for 1 psychic energy. You put this Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your hand. So it's just kind of like a bit of chip damage, bounces out. Interesting attack. Sentret, Maractus. Okay, so this does have an attack that has a colorless energy, does 20 damage, and makes it so the opponent can't retreat. If they hit us, they're going to take 6 damage counters as well. So while building the deck, I'm going to put this one off to the side. I know I did say colorless Pokemon, consider separating them. So like the Audino and the Sentret would be considerations. The Audino puts a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. So it's not bad, but I don't think it does enough to really justify including it in a deck. We're getting a Toedscruel. Has the ability Secret Forest Path. As long as this Pokemon's on the bench, your active Pokemon's retreat cost is 2 less. So having the pivot Pokemon in an Incineroar means we could be switching into something with a slightly higher retreat cost than having Toedscruel helping to reduce that for us and make it a little bit easier to pivot back into it. So if we got into like something with a bit of heftier HP, or even those Corviknights, right? They've got 170, so Incineroar attack, pivot into a Corviknight, Toedscruel helps us retreat out. It is a stage 1, so we need the Toedscruel if we actually want to run this, but pretty interesting ability. I think I would put this off to the side to consider running. We're getting Ends Darmanitan. It doesn't really fit with our kit, so unfortunately we would be putting this to the side. If we had Ends kit though, this would be solid. An extra copy of Darmanitan to just ensure we're finding those evolution pieces by drawing into them. That's pretty big. Wailmer does have colorless energy in the attack cost, but 3 of it, and it only does 60 damage with Surf. I don't think it's quite fast enough to justify running it, but interesting card nonetheless. Galarian Stunfisk, 2 colorless energy in the attack here, so is a consideration. Does 40 damage, second attack, Bounding Bite, does 100 base damage. Then this Pokemon also does 30 damage to itself. We're kind of helping the opponent knock it out. The first attack's interesting, 2 colorless energy without a way to accelerate energy to it though. I don't think it's good enough to consider for the deck. And Hops Duplo? That's pretty sick. If we get a Wooloo, instant include. Gust in this format is big, so we will put that one to the side just in case we get that Wooloo. All right, let's crack into the Ends pack now. We got that Darmanitan. Maybe we see the Darmanitan? What's the pre-evolution called? I'm sorry for the Unova fans out there. I played Black and White 2, and I mostly used the Kanto Pokemon I found there. I'm a bit of a Gen 1er. I saw a Growlithe and I jumped on that. Getting another copy of Wailmer. Getting Enzorua. Nice. Ensdarmaka. That's the pre-evolution. It knew what I was talking about. It's like, I'll show you what's up. A Foongus. So 1 grass energy, 10 damage, puts the opponent's active Pokemon to sleep. We did get the Incineroar, which runs grass energy to attack. We got Luminous energy. So you could be paying for this attack cost and putting the opponent to sleep to buy us a little bit of time in the early or late game. Yeah, not too bad. So I would put this one to the side to consider. We're seeing Hops Sandaconda. So we do have the Hops kit. Is Sandaconda worth including if we get the pre-evolution? First attack on here, Rumble, for 1 fighting, 1 colorless, so we'd have to include a secondary energy type for it. A little bit awkward. It can do 30 damage. During your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon can't retreat. It's okay. And the second attack doing 140 damage, then also does 20 damage to each of your bench Pokemon. I don't like that. I don't want to hurt ourselves. Kuparaja, very interesting card here. 2 steel and a colorless, 100 damage. 2 steel, 2 colorless, 160, 190 HP on air. So he's a pretty bulky guy. Could be buying us a bit of time, but the 4 energy retreat cost does make this a little bit awkward, and manually charging this up, it's probably not super realistic to run. Seeing Ends Castle. Your Ends Pokemon and the opponents have no retreat cost, so it could be an interesting thing to consider with the Incineroar, just putting this in play. Incineroar bounces into an Ends Pokemon, and then we can switch back into it. So worth considering. I don't think I would run it in the deck though, but definitely worth considering. Seeing Lechonk, 1 colorless energy, 10 damage. It's all right. Ludicolo. I forgot about this card. If you get the full evolution line, honestly, it's worth considering for your deck. The ability Vibrant Dance makes it so all of your Pokemon have 40 more HP. Just adding some bulk to them. You can't stack this effect, so it'd just be like a 1/1/1 line in your kit if you happen to pull them. It's worth considering, definitely worth considering as a tech. Seeing the Wailord. Nice. So the attack on here, Hydro Pump, we've seen it before on water Pokemon. It's going to scale up damage based on the amount of water energy on it. So this one starts at 10 base damage, then 50 more damage for each water energy. So just to use the attack, if you're only using water energy, you're going to be doing 210, and then you can scale up from there. For standard or even like something like GLC, with the amount of water Pokemon that have rain dance effects, so they're able to just play as many water energy from your hand onto your Pokemon each turn, you can quickly ramp this up. Like a Baxcalibur just rushing 6 or 7 water energy onto this, you're doing 350. You can be one-shotting stage 2 EXs in standard, so it's pretty big. For this format though, there is unfortunately none of those cards, so I wouldn't run it myself. And then the Psychic Energy. All right, we've got the Iono pack here. Might just put the energy to the side, but let's see, maybe it's a hot pack. Do we get fire? We got grass. All right, we're getting a Galarian Stunfisk, another one of those. Bombardier, colorless energy in the attack cost, just doing 20 damage though, 120 HP and 1 retreat. So honestly, for the early game, just to have something in the active that could take a hit or two, not bad. I would consider putting this in a deck. Parasect, it's okay. First attack just puts the opponent to sleep for colorless energy. It's a stage 1 though, so no, I wouldn't be running that. Pupitar, Wheezing, Ruffian. So this supporter card lets you discard a Pokemon tool and special energy from your opponent's Pokemon. Could be getting rid of the Luminous energy in a Hop's Choice band potentially. Like, I'm not too sure if there's any. Oh, actually, getting rid of the Lily's Pearl could be relevant. I didn't include this in supporters to watch for, but honestly, if you pull this, it's not a bad shout to include. Chinchino, it's a stage 1, 50 damage for 1 colorless energy. If you get the pre-evolution, it's not a bad idea to run as a secondary Pokemon, but I don't think it's quite doing enough and does take quite a bit of deck space. Octillery, interesting card there. Cramorant. There's 2 Cramorants in this set. This is not Hop's Cramorant. This is not what we want. So the attack on here, Ceaseless Spitting. This is a multiplier of 50. You're going to flip a coin till you get tails, and it's going to do 50 damage for each heads. Technically unlimited damage. It's kind of funny. I'd probably consider running it just for the memes. But this is not the Cramorant we wanted. And Mimikyu EX. Psychic Energy and a colorless energy. Choose 2 of your opponent's Pokemon in play. Put 3 damage counters on each of them. I don't think I'd be running it, but interesting card. The last pack we're getting is the Lily's Clefairy pack. So, hoping we get maybe an EX in here. Maybe we find that Zacian. Could be pretty cool. Or some extra Hop's Choice bands, or maybe Postwick Stadium. Hop's Cramorant would be pretty big, and apparently struggling to get into this pack. There we go. Alright, so we're seeing the Alolan Graveler. We did have the Geodude, so it could technically evolve into this. No, not the Dunsparce, just regular Dunsparce. Trading places, switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. Not ideal. Lechonk, Impidimp, Ends Power Up. We don't have the Ends kit. If we did though, this would be amazing to basically an instant include if you had the Darmanitan. Pelipper, Ends Klingklang. We don't have the pre-evolution, so we'd be skipping that. Lechonk, Iono's Tadbulb. If we had gotten Iono's Bellybolt, you need one of these to actually be able to play it in your deck. So honestly, include it if you get that. If not, you just skip it. Butterfree, and a Fire Energy. Nice. All right. So from that pack, the things we would consider. Woo. All right. So from that pack, the things we would consider adding into the deck list, we've got the Ruffian. I think we would include that to get around the Lily's Pearls and potentially just get rid of Luminous energies in play to slow down our opponents. The Bombardier being a little bit of a bulky basic we can start the game off with. It doesn't do big damage, but start setting up knockouts, and having just 1 retreat cost, it's not the worst thing to try and get out of the active. The Ends Castle, if we went in on the Excelgor line, not a bad inclusion, but I think we'd be skipping it personally. The Double, unfortunately, we didn't get a Wooloo, so that's not going to be going in there. The Foongus, I'd consider it since we do have that Excelgor line, needing a Grass Energy to do 10 damage and put the opponent to sleep. It's a good way to buy us some time, so yeah, probably include that. Toadscruel, we didn't get the Toadscruel, right? Toadscruel from Toadscruel, that's right, yep. So we'd be skipping that. And the Maractus, I do think I would include it. Just being able to do 60 damage if they hit us, if they're not one-shotting us, that's a pretty big attack, basically, to be reflecting into them, and 20 damage to lock them in the active isn't a bad shout. So we only really need to find space for 4 cards in our deck. And the fact that we have the Excelgor, who just needs a few Grass Energy to get into play. We've got, 3, effectively 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 grass energy. Realistically, I think we're just cutting 4 grass energy. And we're putting these 4 cards in. And that would be our deck for the day. So it is one of those things, you work with what you get from the kit. You're not always going to get like a crazy deck out of these, right? You're going to get something it's playable. It's not always top tier. The format's mainly meant to just have a bit of fun, meet some people, try out the new cards before they're out. And yeah, from those packs, unfortunately, we didn't get anything too crazy. We didn't get anything bad. Nothing too crazy though. If we stuck around to the end of the event though, we'd be getting 3 extra packs at the end, and I think that's where the spicy hits would be. So when you go to these, make sure to hang around to the end, meet people in the community. If you don't play the game, trying it out, maybe you'll find, hey, like I collect these cards, but honestly, like they're pretty cool to play with too, so I'm gonna keep doing these. You never know, could be a great way to turn your current hobby into an even bigger one for you. So I hope you did find this video helpful and enjoyable. If you did, hitting that like button is always appreciated, and subscribe if you haven't already. You made it this far into the video, so clearly you don't mind me that much, and we can hang out another time. Till next time though, stay golden, you Goombas.